Welcome to Safety Talk. Personal safety expert Pete Canavan shares his insights and interviews experts who provide simple and effective tips, techniques, and technologies to keep you safe and secure both online and off. Here's Pete.
Hello, and welcome to Safety Talk. I am your host and personal safety expert, Pete Canavan. Thanks so much to our listeners for being here. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast and our YouTube channel at safetytalkvideos.com. You get the latest information about safety tools, tips, technologies. And of course, we appreciate you helping us spread the word about Safety Talk because, hey, we all need to work together to make this world a safer place. Today's guest is an old school journalist who has turned digital reporter. She knows how to use a typesetter, call it a story like it's 1979, and blog like a mom. She's written for local newspapers, the Associated Press, various art and lifestyle magazines, and has also helped launch a citizen journalism digest in Salt Lake City, Utah. In 2013, she turned her reporting skills to the topic of home security and safety and has not looked back since. As a single mother and former college director, she's been looking out for the safety of other people most of her life. And the more she dives into all things safety related, the more passionate she becomes about helping everyone live a safer life, as do we here. She's also a repeat guest on the show. We had her on episode 20. I looked it up way back when we first started. You can find her advice, tips, and insights on safewise.com, as well as on social media and lots of national and local publications. She lives in Idaho with her son and daughter and their dog, Rocky. So I'm excited to bring her back for today's episode of Safety Talk to learn more about SafeWise and increasing your online safety. And with that said, it's my pleasure to bring back to us Rebecca Edwards to Safety Talk. Hello.
Hi, Pete. It's so great to talk to you again.
Yes, been a little while. When we first talked, it was President Trump was still a president. We didn't have COVID. The world was totally different than the world that we're living in today. And I don't think either one of us could have predicted where things would have gone in the last couple of years.
Absolutely not.
It's been totally nuts. So one thing we wanted to talk about is, we're coming up on the holiday season and, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We've got a lot of people are going to be shopping online a lot more than usual because of the current situation. A lot of people still maybe a little skittish about going out to stores. So they're still doing a lot of shopping online, but people still are shopping offline as well. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some program that you guys are kicking off about a package theft prevention campaign. And so I wanted to jump right in with that because everybody's getting these packages delivered, whether it's from the big A company or others. And people like to steal packages. They see something on somebody's front porch and it's like, oh, I wonder what's in there. They don't really care. They steal it. They don't want it. They'll probably turn around and sell it on eBay or something. So let's talk about that because the world has kind of gotten into a little bit of a lunacy here, a whirlwind. So do appreciate you joining us. So let's jump right in and talk about this campaign that SafeWise and yourself are putting together about this package theft prevention.
Yeah, so this is like the third or fourth year that we've released a data report about the worst metros in the country for package theft. And so just honing in on some of those biggest cities and where people are stealing the most packages. And it's become more and more interesting. And there's very little statistical data out there about this topic because it's really hard to track and it doesn't land in its own category in most states. Only 5 states actually have specific laws against package theft. Otherwise, it just is going to get lumped in with larceny theft, the same place that if someone steals your bike from out front of your house, it goes, or if someone snatches your purse, pickpockets you, something like that. So it just goes into this miscellaneous larceny theft category. Or if it's from the USPS, it's a federal crime, right? But that's more and more narrow. All the things that were designed to protect us from this type of stuff were related to mail. Well, I think now more of us, I get a lot more packages than I get mail because so much of my paper mail comes electronically now.
Right.
But the pandemic really put everything into overdrive as far as how many packages everybody's receiving at home. People had to shop online that maybe never shopped online before. And so this year we thought it was really important to take a deeper dive. And so on top of us figuring out the worst metro areas, we have taken an even closer look at one of the cities that's been on our list every single year, which is Salt Lake City, which is also thought of as a really safe community. And package theft, it's not a violent crime, but it is damaging still in so many ways. And it has a ripple effect, just like all crime does, because it's going to impact me. It might impact, if I send a package to someone, they're not going to get, their presents that I, painstakingly picked out for them and put click on. I wasn't knitting booties, but, and then it's going to affect the seller. It's going to affect the carrier that's delivering the packages. So it's an expensive cost. And all of that comes back to you and me the next time we buy something online, because it's got to be covered somewhere. So
I think the ripple effect is something key that you just mentioned, which is not only is it something I think that's really important that they do track separately, right? Because it is sort of become its own thing as so many people have shopped online and continue to do so. And with no end in sight, really. I think it's really important. And I'm surprised that only 5 states track it separately. I think every state should be taking a real serious look at it because of the implications in that ripple effect, whereby if you're filing more insurance claims because items are being stolen, well, guess what? The companies that are providing that insurance to either you or the vendor or the carrier, eventually that's going to affect them, and they're going to have to raise their rates. And then what happens is the price of the packages and goods and services goes up, the delivery costs go up. And so it ends up costing all of us more money in the end, because ultimately it's all going to get passed back onto the consumer. And we don't want that. So one of the nice things is so many people have, Ring doorbells and video, surveillance on their homes and continue to add more, because it's kind of easy to add those things anymore, that at least that gives you another measure of being able to sort of see what's going on. Because I know some of the carriers like Amazon, they take a picture if they leave your package there, right? They take a photo of it,
yes,
inside your screen door or, near your mailbox or something like that. And so, I mean, that's nice, but if you're not home and it takes a couple hours to get home, by the time you get there, they might not be there.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing about that is, and that's something that's become really common just in the past couple of years. And really, really, I would say I've noticed it more in the past 9 months, that practically every delivery that I get, I get a picture of it sent to me. And I think carriers have increased their responsiveness in that way, because they're getting so many claims of people saying, I never got the package, it didn't get delivered. And I've always told people it's always your responsibility to prove that you didn't get the package, right? If you want the vendor to replace it, or you're filing a claim with the carrier. And this makes it even more difficult for you to prove that it's gone, especially if they have photographic evidence and you don't. So, I mean, we used to recommend video doorbells as a somewhat of a preventative measure. Like, you usually think criminals don't want to get caught. So, I see a camera, I'm going to skip that house and pick the next one. But we found that they seem to be very shameless. These package thieves, porch pirates. And they're like, they might pull up a hood or they might put on sunglasses or something, but they will kind of acknowledge that the camera's there and still nab a package. So where that it maybe isn't as preventative as it was initially, now it's going to help you with recovery so much. And it can also help law enforcement with gathering information and building a case against something. If I've seen a few cases where porch pirates are targeting a specific neighborhood or specific cul-de-sac or something, and if the more neighbors that bring it to the police's attention, that work together, that all check their cameras, you're getting a much bigger picture, and law enforcement actually has the chance to maybe stop it. Because this is a really difficult crime to stop, because it happens really fast, and it can just look like me walking down your neighborhood. I just look like a harmless middle-aged mom. I'm not going to steal your package. Oh, but I might,
Yeah. And you never know. And heck, everybody's wearing masks anyway. So it makes it that much more difficult to identify somebody. So hopefully your camera or maybe your neighbor's cameras are picking up maybe the car's make, model, license plate. Maybe they're catching some other details that'll help you catch criminals, because, one of the things that you guys promote with SafeWise is the community safety aspect of it. And this is a perfect example where having good relationships with your neighbors and being aware of this sort of problem, it helps not only you, but it helps them as well. You can say, hey, you know what? The incidence of people stealing packages is high. I mean, my neighbors they all get Amazon all the time. It's always there. And we look out for each other all the time. And that's an important thing, because you can let them know, hey, if something happens, let me know. Maybe my camera, caught something that yours didn't. Maybe theirs wasn't working that day or couldn't get the right angle. And so now that footage can be provided to law enforcement, and hopefully you can catch these people, because, like you said, they become very bold. They see it as an easy target, right? You're not robbing somebody with, you're not going directly up to somebody and stealing a purse or a wallet or a watch or whatever. It's just, there's a package sitting on a porch. Oh, what's that? I don't know. Let's see. Go up, grab it, figure it out later. If if it's something you like, great. Now, or maybe you're going to regift it. Right?
Exactly.
So a lot of reasons why they could be doing that. So
it's a low risk crime in some ways, and I think that's why the entry level to it is lower than, like you said, nabbing a watch off your wrist or something.
Maybe people who never thought about stealing something might make it more attractive to them. Like, hey, there's a package sitting there. Nobody around. No, go grab it. Not good.
Yeah, so weird. Well, I talked with a researcher who studies package theft in particular, and the first study that he did, they viewed all the videos they could find, like on YouTube, of packages being stolen, and tried to create a profile. And they found out that it's 50-50 male to female, which is really weird. For most crime is not usually that. It usually leans heavier to male, especially when it comes to theft and robbery and stuff like that. But he said, and he's a former law enforcement officer, so he looks at it, from a few different, academically and from his experience, being on the streets. 50-50 male, female. Most of them are 45 years or younger. And he said one of the most interesting things is they kind of got some swag, like that people be walking up with designer purses. He said Gucci sunglasses, driving, a Mercedes or a BMW, and then they'll run and grab a package and speed off.
That's crazy.
Bizarre.
You would think the opposite.
Yeah, because a lot of the reporters ask me when I'm talking, to national, broadcast stations and stuff like that about it's gotten worse with COVID. Is it because people are out of work and people are more desperate and they need things? And this fellow told me, from a law enforcement perspective, someone that was down on their luck and trying to provide for their family probably isn't going to steal a package that they don't know what's in it. If they're going to choose to start to steal something, they'll probably steal something they know will help. They're going to steal the loaf of bread. We're going Jean Valjean.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
So porch pirates tend to be, it's more of a high white collar crime.
It kind of is. Bored housewives. I don't know.
Yeah, right. The porch pirates of in your local town, right? Yeah, that's crazy though. Very interesting. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people are victims of that. And so if you have, that sort of problem where you live, and you don't have a camera, you might want to think about that, and definitely talk to your neighbors about, keeping an eye on things, or have the driver drop the package at the neighbors. Or I know you can even, tell them, hey, put the packages behind the bush on the right side of my porch, so it's not sitting on the porch. They can hide it back there, and in that way, somebody who's driving around is never going to see it, and nobody's going to walk up to every house and look behind people's bushes, right? So I think that that's a good idea too for people, is to do that, add some special instructions, and have them put it in a not so obvious location, so that the chance of something being stolen is decreased significantly.
Definitely. You hit on something really significant there, and it's decreasing the likelihood that it's going to happen. They're not just going to walk up and check every house for packages. If they can see it from wherever they are, which is going to be on a main road, they're not stalking through your backyard, in the little suburban neighborhood. And so if they can see it from where they are and know that it's there, and can kind of get that time seems right, it's going to be, you're making it more vulnerable. So, and just because, I said, I don't think cameras are as preventative as they used to be. There are preventative things you can do. Like you just said, have it delivered in a hidden spot. You can even get a porch locker or put your own little box on your porch that you can add a smart lock to or something with like a code. A lot more drivers and carriers are getting used to this and being responsible and responsive to following instructions, shoving it around the corner, sticking it behind the bush, putting it in the lockbox. And like you said, deliver to the neighbor, deliver it to a package locker location in your town if you have those. I love
that's happening
lockers.
more and more too, where you're able to deliver packages like to your local CVS or Walgreens or something like that. So, you can, that's always an alternative too, if that's a problem for you, or if you want to make sure it's never going to be a problem for you, have that package delivered to one of those locations, stop by at your convenience when they're open. They check your ID. There's my name. That's the name on the package. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Now you're not losing things, because especially when you're ordering something that's timely, that you need, whether it's for an event, an occasion, as a holiday, or just something that you need because, you're trying to replace something that may be broke at your home or whatever, or business.
Or medication. People have medication delivered.
That's a biggie.
Yeah.
That's a biggie. You don't want somebody stealing your meds, now you're out of medication. That could be, now you're talking, could be a serious health problem. And that's taking things to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of increasing overall safety online with shopping, we always talk about making sure that you have strong passwords and you're not putting a lot of personal data out there online. One of the things that I personally started doing recently is using a separate account for online purchases, especially from online purchases from vendors that I've never done business with before, and not knowing whether or not, their system is secure and might easily be compromised and hacked. So I bought recently a prepaid Visa card, loaded it up with a few $100s. And now I have that if I want to make a purchase somewhere, and I don't have to use my regular debit or credit card, because we all know what a pain in the neck that is when your regular account is compromised. Now you got to cancel it everywhere you have it, if you can even remember every place that you've stored that card. And now you got to go back in and you've got to change it everywhere. And in the meantime, you might be missing, payments may not be going through. Now you're getting phone calls or emails saying, hey, you didn't pay your water bill or your electric bill, and, or whatever it happens to be. And it's like, oh man, I got to update my card there. So it's a huge pain in the neck. And if you have something that is a temporary card, or something that you just kind of set aside for certain purchases, that is very smart, especially, around the holidays, you're starting to shop. Maybe you're searching for something. You locate it on a website that you're not familiar with. Another step to that, and this is something I've just noticed recently that companies are doing, or banks are doing, is allowing you to generate a temporary credit card number.
That's so cool.
You don't have to even use the card number that you have. You can log into your account and generate a card number that you can use just for a purchase or just for a website. And then if that number is compromised, so what? You deactivate it, you generate another one, which I think is a brilliant solution.
I love that. And it takes away so much of the risk that you have. Absolutely. Because I always recommend that people don't use their debit card to shop online.
Never.
Period. Just because that's the doorway to all of your real funds and money in your bank account and everything. It's so much harder to recover from, because they could steal all your real money, and
the bank won't give it back to you as easily as if it's a credit card company. And what happens if they freeze the funds and they want to open an investigation, and now days, weeks are ticking by and you don't have access to your money. In the meantime, you got to pay for food and your mortgage and all your utilities and everything else you got to buy. That's a huge problem.
Yeah, it's really scary. Yeah, so I love that. I think that's so smart. It's that extra layers. Layered security is the way to do it. I mean, that's what's going to give you the most maximum protection. Isn't just having one thing. Like, don't just have the Ring doorbell. Also, have your packages hidden. Also, don't just use the prepaid card. I love that. I think that's so smart, because credit cards are always a better bet. And sometimes they will insure your packages too if they get stolen. So like American Express is really good at that.
Yep.
That they'll cover a lost delivery or whatever. But to where it's not connected to any real money. It's not going to be on any of your repeat automatic payments. And this kind of like throwaway number is a brilliant way to go. I love that.
Yeah. And that's something I just came across. Yeah. I just came across that recently and I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Like, because we all have been in that position where you get the call from the bank, you get the text on the phone. It says, was your card used to make this purchase in, Alabama? And you're like, no, I'm in Pennsylvania. I've never been there. That definitely wasn't me. So now you can, now you got to cancel the card, wait for a new card to come, and they don't give you a temporary number. You might have to wait 2 or 3 days, even if they're, getting it right out the door next day, second day air to you. In the meantime, you can't go shopping, or now you got to use another card, maybe using a credit card. You don't want to use your credit card. You're trying to pay down, whatever it happens. Right. So we have these issues that can happen. So having a card that, and I mean, I take it a step further. I put money in my PayPal account. I use the PayPal account to fund the prepaid card. And then I generate a temporary number on that prepaid card account.
I love that.
So it's like 4 layers deep. Is it a pain in the neck? No, it's simple. It takes you 2 minutes to do it. And now you have a record of it. And if you want to do it and you can generate as many numbers as you want, which is another really cool thing. So if you want to use one number for one vendor and another number for another vendor, if something happens and you know which number it was, it's like, well, I've only used that number at that vendor. They must have been the one that was hacked or compromised. Now you can turn around and be like, hey man, my number was compromised. You're the only place I've ever used it. You better check and see what's going on.
No, that's such a great point. That's so smart. I love that. Yeah, being able to tell exactly where the card was exposed is that's incredible. I mean, that's leaps and bounds ahead of where we usually are.
Right, because you can't do that with your regular accounts. Maybe you have 2, 3, 4 credit cards or whatever, and a debit card. That's it. You got a finite number. You can use it 4 different places, and now what? Now you got to start using it elsewhere. This way, you don't have to do that. So, for those people that are not aware of that, definitely look into it. If your bank doesn't do it, see if there's other banks out there that, like I said, use a prepaid card. See if that's an option for you. Get that and use it, and protect yourself. Again, layered safety and security, as you said, Rebecca, is the way to do it. You don't rely on just one thing. You have to have multiple things that help keep us safer. And with the crooks getting smarter, with the technology getting more powerful, with things like artificial intelligence now helping along the ability to crack things, it starts getting really scary. And as long as I'm on that topic, the power of computers every 18 months approximately doubles. That's Moore's law. When you take that increase in processing power, and now you match that and mate that with artificial intelligence, you now have these smart systems hacking away at various, companies, businesses, individuals, accounts, whatever. And so as time goes on, it's going to be harder and harder for us to protect ourselves. And so every single thing that we can do to give ourselves a little bit of an edge is going to benefit us. I mean, we all know that if our identity was stolen, you may never recover from that. I know people whose identity's been stolen. It's taken years to try to get back. And in the meantime, your credit's ruined. What happens if that happens right before you try to buy a house or a car or new appliances or furniture or something like that? Now now what are you going to have to do? Now you got to, if you can't get credit, now you're going to have to come up with the cash. How many people are going to come up with 35 grand to buy a new car or 50 grand to buy a new car? Not many.
Nope. And one thing you said earlier caught my attention, and I think it plays into this. Like you and I, we could riff on tips and things you can do all day long and all the ways to layer it. And it can sound really overwhelming. And people think, gosh, I don't want to. It's such a hassle. Like you're saying, the 4 layers to do PayPal and the card and generate. It doesn't take any time at all. You set that up one time, basically, and it's easy to do it every other time. But I think that even if it takes you an extra 30 seconds or an extra 3 minutes or an hour to do something, that will save you the headache, the heartache, and the pain
of months or years of problems.
Something else happening. Yeah, it's totally worth it. And that's why I always tell people, I want us all to adopt safety as part of our lifestyle. It's like dental hygiene. It's like we don't brush and floss our teeth after they have already fallen out.
Right.
We do it so they don't fall out. It's the same thing with safety, whether it's online safety, package theft safety, locking the front door, cybersecurity, floss your security life before the teeth fall out. That's all.
Yeah. One of the things I tell people is don't learn safety by accident.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't think about it until after the fact, whether it's their personal safety, if there's some sort of physical threat, or it's your online safety and security from being hacked or held for ransom if you're a business, that sort of thing. You've got to think about these things ahead of time. And you may not realize a direct return on that investment initially, but neither do you from insurance. And we all carry insurance, whether it's an umbrella policy on us or on our house or on our cars or whatever. We have insurance just in case. We don't buy insurance and say, boy, I hope I get into an accident tomorrow so I can get a new car. No, we buy it because we are trying to protect ourselves from liability and the pain and the heartache of having to deal with a problem and not being insured for it. I mean, if your house burns down and you don't have insurance, you're going to have a big problem. You're going to be able to go buy another house and still have to keep paying the mortgage on the one that is ashes? Of course not. So we have to look at our safety and security, I think, the same way that we look at insurance. We buy these things just in case. We're not looking for a direct return. We're just hoping that, hey, what's the saying go, right? We hope for the best, but we plan for the worst.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you have to do.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned insurance. We do a survey of people in every state every single year. And we ask, what are you afraid of? How often do you worry about your safety every day? What, crime issues are top of mind? And then we ask, what do you do about it? Are you doing anything about it? So what we always find out every year is that people are worrying and they're not doing very much about it. But insurance is the one thing that is definitely at the top of the list, because we'll ask, like, do you have any of these things? Do you have a security system? Do you have like pepper spray? Do you have firearms? Do you have a guard dog? And we ask about insurance as well. That's always the number one thing that most Americans have in one form or another. And sometimes, yes, we're required to have it by law in some cases, but that's just become part of our life, though. We expect that we're going to have to do it. We plan to do it. It's normal to do it. But we've only got 25% of the people we talk to that have a home security system. But a burglary or a break into their home is the number one thing that Americans usually are most worried about and afraid of actually happening to them. So
isn't that interesting?
Very interesting.
One of the things that they're most worried about, but yet they're not doing about it. And I think part of the reason for that, and I think you probably agree with me on this, Rebecca, is that sometimes that sort of thing is too painful to think about. And so people tend to ignore it, and they're like, they bury their head in the sand. They don't want to think about it. It's like, you know what? It's not going to happen to me. And that's the absolute worst thing you could possibly do, because what is the victim of every single violent crime or burglary or robbery or anything say, right? After the fact, they all say, I never thought it was going to happen to me. Well, too late now, because it just did. And if you maybe taken some proactive measures ahead of time, maybe that wouldn't have happened. Maybe if you had a better security system, maybe if you had taken some training, maybe if you had learned a little bit more about what you could do to secure yourself by getting a security system or whatever. And people can say, I don't see that direct benefit. It's an extra, whatever, $30 a month monitoring cost. Okay, well, how much is it going to be? How much you paying next is going to be to replace all your jewelry and all your electronics and all your gaming systems? If your kids have PlayStations and Xboxes like mine do, if we weren't here and somebody broke in and install the TVs and all of that and the computers, it's, that's a huge amount of value in items that you better have insured, and you better take some proactive steps to reduce, we can never eliminate 100%, but at least reduce the likelihood of something happening.
Yeah, you can reduce the likelihood, and you can also mitigate the damage a little bit. Because like if you have an alarm system and it is monitored, they have a shorter amount of time to get in and out of their house cleanly than otherwise. If you have alarms going off, we all ignore car alarms nowadays for the most part. It's become like something that we don't respond to like we used to.
Right. It's like, oh man, who set their car alarm off?
But you might still look to see, or I'm like, is that my car?
Yeah.
And so it's still drawing attention in some way. So all of those things do minimize the amount of time a criminal might spend. And And it can increase your likelihood of catching the bad guy too, which is something we all want to have happen. And if we circle back to porch pirates, that's one thing that's difficult. It's hard to catch the bad actors there because, like we said, there's walking down the street and walking by. But if communities come together and work together and communicate, the odds go up.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
So let's, I'm going to, for those of our listeners that are, or viewers that are watching this on our YouTube channel, if you are, great. I'm going to pop over and pull up the SafeWise website real quick here. And if you have not, then, and you're listening to this just through your favorite podcast network, you can go and check out safewise.com. And so we'll talk about all the different things that you guys have with the site, because there's a ton of great information that you have. And so I'm pulling it up now. As we talked about earlier, SafeWise focuses on, home safety and security, the individual and the family and the community. And so if you are looking for some great information, some tips, some reviews on different products, this is a great place to start. When I first found out about it was when you first came on the show a while ago, is when I had first, learned about it. And for example, we're just talking about security systems, right? Well, guess what? Maybe you're being overwhelmed. Oh my God, I know there's all these security systems out there. There's the Ring system, there's Simply Safe, there's Vivint, there's ADT, there's all of these, right? Who should I buy? What are their costs? What are their features? What are the benefits? What are the pros? What are the cons? You can go right to the website. I just pulled it up here. Boom, best home security systems of 2021. Right here. After hundreds of hours of test and research, here's who we picked. And you can go and you look and it'll tell you why. And you can, what else is great is you guys even provide like a phone number for the company right there. Like somebody wants to go look at it, or they can click and look at the packages and you can see what the prices are. So this obviously takes a lot of time and research, which you are doing, that the average person doesn't have to go waste a lot of time or invest a lot of time in doing.
Right. And we really try to hone in on like use cases, like who do I think Vivint is the best match for? I feel like a matchmaker sometimes with security products and things, like I want to match you up with the right thing. But we have tested all of these, like we've had them in our homes. We've met with these companies. We've held their equipment. We get sneak previews of the new stuff. The relationships have grown a lot, and that makes a huge difference because I can tell you exactly what I think is good about having Front Point in your home or not, or having Cove in your home versus having, ADT. And, I think that's an extra layer that we have really worked hard to add, that we try as many of the things that we talk about as possible. And so, I'm always thinking about, how are those ways to make proactive decisions for your safety? And then what are the tools and resources you need to do that? And we really try to come up with a broad variety of things, from all kinds of, from free things that you can do, because there's a lot of free stuff you can do, a lot of common sense that keeps you safer and more secure in your life. And then there are other things you can do, tools and technology and stuff that can up the ante, add those extra layers. So, and I don't think safety should be a privilege. I think everybody should have access to it, and everybody does. So we try really hard to throw out all types of options so that, hopefully money won't be a barrier to someone creating a safer life at home or in their community.
No, and I mean, that's the cool thing about this. I mean, just looking at this as an example, you have right down our starts, some of these start as little as $14.99 a month. And then you've got, your best overall pick, what your readers like the best, what's the best for your whole property, what's the one with the best professional monitoring, what's the one that's more focused on the customer. So it's really, really great how that information is laid out, and it makes it so simple as we go down there. Hey, look at that. There's Rebecca's right there article, right? But yeah, so you have, all the different systems. You have a great way to a nice spreadsheet here with all the features. Lots of good information on there. And then, security systems is just one part of it, obviously.
Sure.
You've got the buyer guides and the comparisons. You even do some head-to-heads here, which I think is really neat. Because if somebody is saying, hey, I'm thinking about ADT or Vivint, which should I pick? Well, there you go. You got a brand comparison right on your website, ADT versus Vivint. There you go. You can look.
Yep. Yeah, and we've branched out into other areas too, where we do the smart home,
Right.
home safety, smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, carbon monoxide detectors, things like that. And then I just barely published a family safety guide that it helps you stay safe at home, how to keep every member of the family safe, from babies, to grandma, pretty much, and all the different resources, and different things to consider at different ages as your kids are growing up. Like,
Right. Which I
you
love
don't,
that. I love that. Kid
yeah,
safety, baby safety, toddler safety. I mean, little things that, especially for new parents, may never think about. I mean, yeah, we know babies. What do? The first thing they do is they grab anything and it goes in their mouth, right? So, I mean, you got to
right, yeah.
baby proof everything, and different locks
Uh-huh.
for your cabinets. And I'm sure you guys have, reviews of different things like that. I mean, you got
We
nanny
do.
cams and cribs and monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Baby proof cabinet locks. I didn't even know if you had it. There it is.
We do.
And because I mean, when my kids were young, that's what I did. We had the ones with the magnet where I put them in the
Oh,
cabinets, and
yeah.
you'd have to use that strong magnet, and the magnet would, release the catch on the inside before it would open. So you could sit there and pulling it all day long.
Yep.
The only problem was you had to make sure you didn't accidentally lock the magnet in the cabinet.
Right. Baby proof things should be Rebecca proof. I mean, they should call them that, because I'm really bad at getting into baby proof things. Like, I struggle to open cabinets. When I test the locks, if I can maneuver it easily, I'm very excited about that. But I don't know if I want to recommend it, because is it going to keep a baby out if I can get into it? Because I
True.
can't usually get into anything. So
Right. Yeah, and they
I
have
don't
them for
know.
drawers. I mean, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something that I think deserves a little bit more focus, and that is the smart home technologies, because lots of people are putting in these wireless devices like the Ring cams, like Alexa enabled lighting in the home and things like that. So
Yeah.
all of these devices are attaching to your Wi-Fi network. And I'm sure people remember in the news not that long ago, there were some major negative news about some of the companies that had these wireless devices, and people had hacked into the systems and were actually able to watch the family members, the children, speak to them over the microphone, and the speakers in the system.
Yes.
And it's scary stuff. Now, a lot of that has to do with the security of your Wi-Fi network. So you really can't blame the company 100% for that, because if you've got a weak password, if you're using the default password on your network,
Yes.
that's on you. I'm sorry, that is on you. You have to take responsibility for that. You've got to change it. You got to make it more complicated, more secure. But with the IoT, or Internet of Things, just exploding from smart thermostats to internet-enabled, refrigerators, to all the smart TVs in our home. All of these devices are gateways into your network. And it could be your home network. It could be a corporate network. You've got smart TVs on your corporate network. Well, guess what? That's probably a weak link in the security of your network there. So the
For sure.
the smart home stuff is something that people really need to take a strong look at. I mean, personally, my security system here at my home is wired. It's not a wireless system. It's a wired system. Why? Well, because I'm a safety and security guy. I know that's more safe and secure, and I'm handy. So I was able to run the cables.
Right.
Not have to pay for somebody to do that. Not everybody can do that, and I understand it. And you want maybe a quick and dirty solution.
Yeah.
The best thing is to do that with a Wi-Fi network. But, and this is a big but, keep in mind that the level of security is going to be lower than a wired system. And inherently, the amount of security that can be built into one of those devices is going to be minimal. It's a teeny tiny, for example, little, Ring doorbell. How much technology are they going to be able to stuff into a little doorbell? You got a camera and you got some electronics and you got a Wi-Fi adapter, not a whole lot. So hopefully we're going to see the security around that evolve. There are some technologies that I'm aware of that are starting to be used more in the quantum computing realm and quantum security. I don't know how much you may have been learning about some of this, Rebecca, but essentially they're using like radioactive isotopes to be random number generators. And they're these teeny tiny little, I mean, they're literally teeny tiny little devices that you can add to servers, networks, Wi-Fi networks, all kinds of stuff. And these unique isotopes can't be duplicated because they come from nature. And so it makes things super, super secure. And I know of one company I saw probably 2 years ago or so that was at that had a booth at an event that I had a booth at. They were right across from us, and they had technology that did that. And I talked to these guys, and it blew my mind how amazing it is. Because it can basically be adapted to anything. And so looking at your Internet of Things devices, just keep that in mind. They may not have that technology and that security capability today, but they're going to be able to get more secure in the future.
Sure.
But as I mentioned earlier, as the technology gets better, as AI gets better, you're going to have to constantly be in this back and forth war with the hackers, trying to keep yourself safe and them trying to get in.
No, it's true. And security has gotten a lot better as in a lot of devices. Ring is a great example because they've had a lot of really notable breaches that have hit headlines over the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
But adopting, look for companies that are adopting standard end-to-end encryption. So what's happening is a lot of times things might be encrypted going one way, or it might be encrypted coming in or going out, but it's not like 100%. It's like you want to wrap your internet, your online Wi-Fi connections in like bubble wrap to some degree, or in like a titanium box or something. That's kind of end-to-end encryption is part of creating that box and that bubble wrap. So looking for those kinds of things are really important. Activate firewalls or add firewalls, and make sure that, and this is the one that people never do, and make sure that you are updating your firmware and your software and your operating systems all the time, because that is where they're trying to keep up with the hackers, and that's where patches come in, and leaving your stuff not updated is one of the things that can make you the most vulnerable. And if they can get into one of those devices on that network, they're into all of it. And so, it really starts with that home network and how well you're protecting it, but you can't just rely on that. You have to protect every device on there. And so, and again, it sounds really complicated, but if you set it up at the beginning to do that way and check your firmware updates when you check your smoke detector batteries every month, just make it part of that routine. It's safety as a lifestyle, being proactive. And it will take you, it's not even going to take you an afternoon or a morning to do. It's maybe going to take you an hour.
Right. And for people that may not be as familiar with a firmware update as opposed to like a software update or an operating system update, and we all know, you've got your smartphone, it'll come down, it'll say, hey, there's an update available. You hit update. Okay, great. Or worse, you say, I'll do it later. No, don't do it later. Do it as soon as you possibly can, because it's putting those updates in. But a firmware update is actually updating the software that runs the hardware in the phone. So, or in your router, for example, in the router. This case. So you may, when you set up your router, if you did, or if you had a local computer company or whoever do that, there is an option in every router to update the firmware. So what you do is, all you have to do is, a lot of times you can just click a button inside the menu that says, check for new firmware. It'll go out as long as you're online, go to the company's website, see if there's an updated, version of the software that runs the router itself.
Yes.
And ask you to update it. And so it downloads a little file, and then you could, you pick the file, browse to it, just like you pick a file on your computer to open. You browse, you find it in your downloads, and then you hit update firmware. And I would make a good back it up first. So make a backup first, then do the firmware update. That way, if something screws up, you can always go back. But don't turn it off, obviously, in the middle, or you brick the thing, meaning it won't work at all when you're done. But do the update, let it go through, and now it's going to have the latest security patches. So it might have some enhanced security, might have some. It might be fixing some bugs that were out there that the company found, and that's why it's so important, as Rebecca, as you're saying. A lot of people don't, they know about operating systems. You got your Windows updates come in, and you got your phone updates, but firmware is very critical to the actual hardware devices that you're using on your network.
Yes.
Sometimes, it could be the cameras, could be the router, could be, your modem, could be other devices, but keep that stuff, just check, like you said, it's a great idea. Every 6 months, you change the batteries in your smoke detector. You know what? Check for updates, on all your devices, and have a list.
Yeah.
Just go through.
I like lumping it all together. It makes it easier. Yeah. checklist.
It does. And
Sorry,
it makes it a
talking
habit. And, when
Yep.
you make things habitual, it becomes easier.
Absolutely.
It becomes part of that routine. So lots of great stuff on SafeWise, as I mentioned. You guys, let's see, you also have a new Facebook group too, I believe, right?
Yeah, we just launched a Facebook group. It's called Ask SafeWise. And it's just sort of a place for us to dive in and answer questions like you and I've been talking about, dive into more specific things. And I get a lot of people that email me questions and everything from like, my son's got an internship at this town. Where's a safe place? How do I get him into a safe apartment? To I had a grandma email me not too long ago looking for a cabinet lock. They had a like a vent in a condo, and their a very tenacious 2-year-old grandson could dig in it, and they didn't want him to get in the vent system.
Right.
And they didn't know what to do. And so, it's just a place to have these conversations and for people to hear from more voices than just mine. Everybody together, we all know so much more. And so just kind of creating that network, an online community, instead of walking outside to the cul-de-sac, we can sit behind our computers on our phone, I guess, and kind of improve that safety quality of our lives.
Sure. And as we're talking about that, make sure that you're not being so distracted by your technology that you forget about common sense and paying attention to the people, the places, and the objects around you all the time. When you're out and about, and we started this segment off, talking about shopping and shopping safety. I think we'll come full circle now, and just sort of, real quick talk about offline, safety and security, because you not everybody's buying stuff online. You still got to go to the grocery store. You still have to, maybe go to some other places to pick up some products. You got to run down to, the pharmacy to pick up a prescription, whatever it happens to be. You still got to go get gas at the gas station, right?
Right.
There's different places that you're always going to have to go in person. And so when you're doing that, you have to make sure that you're also paying attention to what's around you, because, crime increases a lot of times too around the holidays, because they know people are shopping. They're going to, they're going to the mall. They're buying maybe more expensive presents for things, whether it's the latest game for their kid, or they're buying jewelry for their wife, or whatever it happens to be. And criminals know this, so they watch for that. And so when you're out and about, like I tell people, when you're putting things in your car, put your kids in your car first, please, before your packages. It drives me crazy. My wife sometimes is just like, just keep driving. Don't say anything, because I want to stop and say something to people. Like, we can be, at the supermarket, and there's somebody and they're piling all the packages in the car, and the kid's still sitting in the shopping cart. Well, I'm sorry. What is your most precious package, people? The child. Get the child in the car. Get your kids in the car first. Get them secured. Then your packages. You can go. Somebody steals your gallon of milk out of your car. Big deal. You go buy another one. Somebody steals your kid out of your car. You got a much, much bigger problem.
Definitely.
So I mean, it's you would think it would be obvious to people, but unless you're thinking about it.
Exactly.
And it's not that you're being paranoid, you're being careful, you're being proactive. And this is all about proactive. It's the same reason we talked about insurance a little while ago. You're being proactive. You don't want a problem to occur, but God forbid, if there is a problem, at least you've taken some steps to try to protect yourself and your family and your community, right? So do these things that don't take a lot of time or money, but that you want to incorporate into your everyday. For example, as I mentioned, when you're shopping, keep your eyes, peeled. Make sure that when you're going to and from your car, if you're still, going to your job in person, right? Because a lot of people still have to go to job in person. Daylight savings time is over. It gets darker earlier. So maybe when you're leaving work, it's going to be dark. Okay. And that's put you at more risk than in the daylight. So make sure you have a good, strong flashlight on you. Make sure you're keeping your eyes peeled. And if you need to have somebody walk you to your car after work, whether it's a security person or when you leave in the supermarket, you want to have somebody come with you to bring your packages with you, whatever it happens to be, it is much better to be safe than sorry, because that one time may be the only time.
Right.
And we don't want that to happen to anybody. So different things that you can do to protect yourself. Like I said, defensive flashlight is one of my favorites because it's still a defensive distance weapon. It's got to have a strobe light function. So you blind somebody. The first thing you do is you take out an attacker's vision. That's why pepper spray works so well.
Yes.
And I call pepper spray and a flashlight my 1-2 punch, right? You blind them with the flashlight while they're figuring that out. You get out the pepper spray.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Now they can't see you. They can't see you. They can't attack you. You can safely, get away. And so it doesn't matter who you are, man or woman, you need to take steps. And I think men are a little bit more unaware because we're thinking, who's going to attack me when I'm shopping? Well, you'd be surprised, right? It doesn't have to be just women that are being attacked. The criminals are not biased to that.
Exactly.
If you look like somebody that is not paying attention, that could be an easy victim. And what makes an easy victim? Somebody not paying attention. They're on their phone. They don't hear somebody or see somebody walking up from the side until too late. Don't be that person. Don't rely on this. Don't get caught up in the phone. We all are distracted by technology, many forms, and it's getting worse. The more apps you got on the phone, the more ding, 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 the more notifications. Oh, Facebook. Oh, Twitter. Oh, this. Oh, text. Oh, voice. It never stops. Right? It never stops.
It's true. And one thing that I see all the time that I think makes it worse, whether you're walking somewhere or whether you're driving in your car, for frick's sake, having earphones in, headphones in, earbuds in the whole time. Like, you're taking, not only is your brain and your vision distracted, but now you have lost another sense to let you know what's going on around you. And I mean, if you have to be on, I never have more than one earbud in my ears unless I am like in an interview or, I'm in a very specific situation or I'm in the bathtub or something. Because I just feel like I'm minimizing my just awareness of everything that's going on around me if I can't hear at least partially the ambient noise, and so I think there's all of our senses can be engaged in that awareness and that and let's not distract too many of them.
And it's easy to do. I mean, you see a lot of people, and if you can't hear screaming, if you can't hear somebody running, right, hear somebody running, footsteps pounding, what's going, that you won't even know it's coming. Maybe it's somebody, you're walking down the street, you got your purse sitting there and somebody's running up behind you and all of a sudden, whoop, snatches the purse. And next thing you know, before you realize what happened, they're 20 steps ahead of you.
Right. Yeah.
If you had heard them, you may have been able to at least, have a couple of seconds to react to that.
Right.
And so, multiple senses being taken, you take out your vision, you take out your hearing. I mean, what else you got? When somebody finally does hit you or attack you or grab you, that's not a good place to be. So, like I said before, people, places, and objects, look at things in a new light. If you've got things around you that you can use to protect yourself, use them. You get looking in your car, looking in your purse. What do you have in there? Maybe no pepper spray, but you got perfume. Maybe you got hand sanitizer. It's got alcohol in it. Squirt that in somebody's eyes. It's going to hurt. So you take a fresh look at the things that you have around you. Ladies, you got a manicure scissors in there or a nail file or even a pen or even a purse itself, for crying out loud.
Right.
Knock somebody out with a 10, 15 pound purse you whack them with, right? So
purses are heavy.
So I've seen some ones that are like mini suitcases and I'm like, what in the world are they carrying it? And they're walking like this because it's so heavy. But it's, we can laugh at some of these things, but at the end of the day, it's serious stuff. It's stuff that is uncomfortable for us to think about. And just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean you can ignore it, because ignoring a problem doesn't make it go away. It doesn't matter what that is. It could be a problem with safety. It could be a problem in your business. It could be a problem in your personal life. It could be a problem in your finance. It could be a problem in your relationships. It doesn't matter. Ignoring that problem doesn't make it go away. You've got to address it. You've got to deal with it. And you've got to figure out a way to make it so it is not as big of a problem. And
right.
I think that is, that kind of says it all. Unfortunately, we can't just, say it's not going to happen. We can't ignore that there are these things that could occur. You get into a car accident, you didn't plan on getting into a car accident today, but it happened. Right. So no matter what it is, we plan for it as best we can. And then, hey, if something happens, well, we've done the best we can. And when the time comes, hopefully we make the right decision and we're in the right mindset to deal with whatever that problem happens to be. So it's cranking right through here. That hour goes real fast here.
It does.
You know, I mean, we're on the same page with a lot of stuff. We could talk all day long, you know. We want to make sure that our listeners do go visit safewise.com, because it's a great first place to go to do some research instead of, you know, trying to find out things on your own. You want to make sure that you keep your home safer, your family safer. And Rebecca, and as you said, you know, it's broken down into age categories, you know, senior safety, kid safety, teen safety, baby safety, young adult safety. You know, there are different concerns with each one of those. And so as parents, you know, our number one responsibility is to keep our children safe. From the time they're an infant, when we're securing the cabinets and keeping things out of their mouths, to, you know, as they progress into, you know, young teens, and they're in school and they may be dealing with peer pressures and, you know, things that are, you know, making them not be good in a mental place, you know, whether it's things, you know, people body shaming or bullying or things of that nature. And, you know, and then when they start driving, you got a whole nother set of issues.
Oh my goodness.
Now you're worrying about them on the road and driving. You hope they're getting into an accident, even if it's not their fault. Like my son went out last night. He's 17. He was going to go visit some friends. And I said, hey, it's Friday night. Please just make an extra look before you go, because it's not that you're going to have, you know, make the mistake, but it could be somebody who's drinking and driving. He's like, I will that. I will, you know, and that's all you can do. And then you go, hope he comes home okay. And of course, then I can't go to sleep till he comes home, which, you know, did fine. And that's what we all hope for. So, is there any final thoughts or things that you'd like to leave our listeners with today, Rebecca? Because we've gone over a lot of stuff. You've got some great things to share. Any last thoughts for us?
Well, you know, I'll say it, you know, until I'm blue in the face, you know, be proactive, not reactive when it comes to your safety. And with our Porch Pirate campaign that you mentioned at the beginning, we have partnered with Cove Home Security, and we're going to be giving away some doorbell cameras.
Cool.
So yeah, that's another good reason to go check out the website. And that's going to launch in about a week or so, right after Black Friday, right around Black Friday. So yeah, check that out if you want to try to win a video camera, video doorbell. If you don't have one, we might be able to give you one for free. So
even better. Free is good.
Yeah.
Excellent. So just, you know, hopefully everybody, you know, stay safe around the holidays. Take, you know, what we say to heart. Don't ignore your safety, because, you know, as I said before, you don't want to learn safety by accident. You don't want to be one of those people that says, I never thought it was going to happen to me. And, you know, at that point it's too late, you know, and hopefully you come out the other side of it okay. But, you know, desperate people out there, sometimes the holidays, there are more mental health issues. A lot of people get depressed around the holidays. And so it is a point of the year where, you know, crime does increase, and violent crimes increase as well. So stay safe, be careful. And we'll be talking and listening to more great guests coming up soon. Again, Rebecca, thank you so much for being with us today. And SafeWise, great company, great information, and doing a lot of good stuff to keep people safer. So we appreciate that.
Thanks so much, Pete.
All right. Find SafeWise online, and you can find Rebecca and SafeWise all over social media as well. Until next time, everybody, please stay safe.